The squat is the #1 leg exercise, but you have to pay attention to some important things to do it right. Let's start with the right body position for the squat. Lots of rumors are about the depth of the squat. If you want to preserve your joints and work all possible angles to avoid an uneven load for the joint surfaces, then go all the way down. Be careful to not fall into the lowest position with the least knee angle, but take it controlled and slowly, especially in the beginning. If you stop the negative movement at a 90-degree angle, you will generate the highest shearing force, the highest pressure on the inside of your patella, and the most stress to your knee. On the other hand, doing ass to grass squats also improves your mobility a lot. How deep you should actually go depends on your hip anatomy, your old and acute injuries, and your sport. But it's not only about the amplitude, but also about the rep speed. If you start training the squat, you should start with a slow rep speed like about 5050 and a low intensity. Then you can increase both slowly as you progress and learn to execute a clean technique. The next important thing is the position of your feet. If you learn the squat technique, pay attention to a stable foot and place them as far apart and rotated as you feel comfortable with. The width and the amount of outward rotation depends on your hip anatomy and your sport. You can do the hip socket test to find out what fits best for you. If the articular cavities of your thighs tend to be turned more forward, then a smaller stand with less outward rotation will be better for you. If the sockets are turned outward a bit more, then you should be more comfortable with a wider stand and further outward rotated feet. By doing so, you also have to open the angle between your thighs to let your joints move on a straight line and keep the axis of your knees right without collapsing to the inside. Let your knee point toward your second or third toe. Now what about the knees? Move them in front or keep them behind your toes. In order to keep your back straight and upward, you have no other choice than moving your knees in front of your toes. And it's not a problem for a healthy knee. If you are a powerlifter, you might think about keeping your knees a bit closer or behind your toes in order to be able to move the highest possible load. But then you have a higher stress on your back, especially the lower spine and your hips. Like I just mentioned, you should keep your back as physiological and upward as possible, especially when the intensity increases. Keep your complete back under tension and extended. Work towards retracted and depressed shoulder blades and keep the tension in your core. You should never let your lumbar and thoracic spine collapse to avoid injuries from shearing forces. With that said, you should also keep your head in a neutral position and look slightly upward with your eyes. Avoid to extend and flex your cervical spine forward or lateral, because this can cause an uneven compression of your discs with a restriction of your full strength output. Also pay attention to your breathing. Don't press your breath, but keep your teeth closed, press your tongue against your teeth and breathe powerful against this resistance. It should sound something like this would let your core muscles contract reflective and improves your stability and power output. Now if you want to start practicing your squat, you should always be fresh-minded and start with a good warm-up and mobility work. Bring your heart rate up a bit, start moving and mobilizing the most important joints, which are your ankles, wrists, the thoracic and cervical spine. After that, also prepare your knees, hips, vertebral joints, shoulders and arms in order to be able to engage your full potential. Now let's talk about the big question. Is it possible to train your legs with body weight only? It depends. On what? On your goals. If you only want to keep your legs fit and do some balancing work, then body weight squats and lunges will be fine. But if you want to boost your strength and explosiveness or maximize your muscle mass, there's no way to not use additional weights. Why? Because you need a specific intensity in order to reach goals and adaptations like that. Bodyweight squats are limited to pistols as the variation with the highest intensity. Let me introduce Daniel Ebert, CEO of Intelligent Coach with a headquarters in Leipzig, Germany, sports scientist and German and European squatting champion, to explain and show the specific differences of weighted squats. With a bar you can do high bar position and low bar position squats. High bar position means that you put the bar on top of the middle trapezius, in the hole of the supraspinatus tendon and below the 7th cervical body, which allows a more upward thoracical spine position and is connected with more forward moving knees. The low bar position requires a more forward leaned upper body and avoids 4 forward moving knees. For that you have to put the bar about 5 to 8 centimeters lower, about at the middle of the middle trapezius. In the high bar position, you should place your elbows underneath your wrists on the wide axis as well as on the depth axis. In the low bar position it's the same, but you move your elbows a little bit backwards on the wide axis. For both positions you should straighten your wrists and grab the bar with the thumbs around the bar. Avoid the false grip to grab the bar safely, or it might slip down. You might notice that this position alone needs some good mobility and some work to be able to take it. Then there's also the front squat, which should not be learned until you improved your technique for the back squat. We won't explain all the differences here because it would go beyond the scope of this video. If you don't want to back squat, you still have the possibility to do weighted pistols. They also require a very good preparation and a slow increasement in additional weight. Pistols have the additional requirement of a good balance, and you can apply a lot of the technical advices we gave earlier in this video. To prepare pistols, you can start with archer squats to gain some strength first. No matter what, always start with learning the right technique for your individual perfect squat. Leave your ego at home and start with light weights, slow rep speeds, and work your way up slowly and step by step. For the beginning, it's advisable to let someone professional watch your technique and give you hints of how to improve your squat technique. Only after being able to perform the technique clean, you should think about increasing the intensity for your squat. Otherwise, the risk of injury might shoot through the roof. Please make sure to check out Daniel's web presence and leave a comment for further discussions on that topic. Thanks, Alex.